Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Deep-3 here with winnersandwhiners.com. Before we get into today's plays of the day, a quick announcement with regard to where Scott Steen is. He is still currently in the hospital with his family, as far as I know, and until I get any other updates, I will relay them all to you, but he should be back tomorrow unless there is some type of change of plans. If that is the case, then you will see me tomorrow once again. But if everything goes back the way it should, then he will be back resuming the videos tomorrow. But either or, the show will go on, and hopefully we'll be able to provide you with some winners today in his absence. Now, for the plays of the day, a lot of stuff on the college basketball card, as well as a couple of hockey games and NBA games. You have some college football games as well, but overall, really not the craziest of days, with the exception of college basketball, as a lot of the other sports have tended to take a backseat to the tournaments and the crazy hectic day schedule that's going on in college hoops. So either or, we're going to dive in, and the first play we're going to be talking about is on college basketball, and will be between Arizona State and Princeton, and we like Arizona State minus 10.5 here, which is available at minus 110 on FanDuel. Princeton is still winless. They are just a really bad team if you've actually watched them play. They're inefficient from the floor. This team can't rebound, and I think that Arizona State should be able to take care of business. Arizona State did lose their last game, but it was only by 3 points on a neutral court to Virginia, and I just find that impressive in itself. They were leading in the second half, so they actually had a great shot at winning that game. Ended up losing by 3. Their defense was great as it held Virginia to 48 points. They only scored 45, but Virginia is Virginia for a reason. Princeton's giving up 81.8 points per game, and I think Arizona State should be able to get back on track offensively. Remy Martin will be the best player on the court. Edwards is still very solid. And Arizona State, according to the stats, they're averaging 7 more rebounds per game. They're giving up 21.8 less points per game, and they're averaging 11 more points per game as well. They're also averaging 3 more assists, 2 more blocks, 5 more steals, and I simply just think Arizona State is too much of a match for Princeton. Arizona State's also in solid form based on the betting numbers, as they are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games overall. And Princeton, they played 1 home game so far this season. The rest were on neutrals, and they still lost. Princeton has really not had the toughest of schedules so far, and they've still gotten smacked. Their toughest opponent up to this point has been Indiana on the road, which is tough. They lost by 25. They played San Francisco on a neutral. They lost by 10. They played Duquesne on the road. They lost by 27. And they played Lafayette at home, and they lost by 7. And Lafayette is just not that good of a basketball team. I think that Arizona State should be able to coast, and I think you should see them win this game by 15 to 20 points. So the first play will be on Arizona State minus 10.5. Now the second play will also be on basketball. This game will be taking place in a tournament game on a neutral court, and it will be between Wright State and LaSalle, and we like Wright State here minus 7, which is available on FanDuel at minus 110. This game will be played in Florida, so it's kind of a moot point with regard to home court advantage, as both teams shouldn't really be receiving that big of a turnout. But LaSalle has been terrible historically in neutral site games, as LaSalle is 3-12 against the spread in their last 15 neutral site games, whereas the Wright State Raiders are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 neutral site games. Plus, a lot of money has come in on Wright State. This line has been bet up from 5.5 to 7. General rule of thumb in these conference tournament games and in the beginning of college basketball season, backing line movement definitely makes sense here, particularly because you can assume most of it's going to be sharp money based on the fact that you don't think that the average Joe is going to be betting on a night basketball game between LaSalle and Wright State. I mean, if you're a degenerate, maybe, but overall, that seems like that there's some logic to why that number has shifted 1.5 points, and I think Wright State should come out victorious in this one by around double digits. Wright State is averaging 16 more points per game. Their defense is worse than LaSalle, so that's mostly due to pace. Wright State's averaging 4 more rebounds. They're averaging more steals. They're averaging more assists. Wright State's been a pretty underrated program in the horizon. They made it to the NCAA tournament within the last couple of years. LaSalle has been pretty bad in their respective conference for a while, and second year of their head coach. They were awful last year. Not much has really changed this year. They gave Temple a bit of a run a couple of games ago, but they were down by double digits before a garbage time run cut it to a 5-point loss. But they were getting killed for the majority of that game, and I just don't really think LaSalle is that good. I think Wright State has more pedigree. I think they have better talent. I just think that this game is a mismatch, and I think Wright State should be able to take care of business. So the second play will be on Wright State, which is available at minus 7. Now, the third play that we're going to be talking about is actually going to be on hockey. In terms of the college football and the NBA, I could give out some leans on those, but I really just don't like anything on the card. You have some action going on, and you have two NBA games. I don't really know why the NBA decided to put only two games on the card. But either or, there are some hockey games going on. I think there is one game in particular that I think provides value. It will be a prop, though, so you have to try to find it. It's available on DraftKings, and that's going to be the line that I'm using. And it will be on a matchup between the New Jersey Devils and the Minnesota Wild. And I like the Devils to score first and to win the game, which is a combined prop bet that is allowed on DraftKings. It is not a parlay. You can actually find it. And it's available at plus 135 on DraftKings. Main reason why the Wild, first of all, both teams this season have been awful, so it's kind of a wash. Minnesota has been one of the worst teams in the West, and the Devils have been one of the worst teams in the East. Now, I know that means you're backing a bad team, but you're backing a bad team at home that has actually been mediocre at home. The Devils this season are 8-10-4. They're 4-4-4 at home. The Wild are 9-11-4, which sounds not bad, but they are 4-10-2 on the road. So they have been a lot better at home than they have been on the road. This team has been terrible on the road, and the Wild have lost each of their last two games on the road as well. They lost to the Bruins, they lost to the Rangers, and I simply just think that there's a massive goalie mismatch here, and I like the way the Devils played in their last game against the Red Wings. They ended up winning 5-1 at home. For this goalie matchup, the Wild will actually be using a new face in net. They're going to be using Kaapo Kähkönen as he will be making his NHL debut. General rule of thumb for the NHL, try to fade some goalies when they haven't exactly played in the NHL yet. Occasionally they'll play well, but for the most part, they're not going to be able to adjust the actual skill involved in the NHL. There's a difference between succeeding in the minors and succeeding in the pros. You see with baseball pitchers all the time, you might have a guy who has a 2 ERA in the minors to bring up to the majors and he gets smacked because the level of talent is taking a massive jump, and every inch counts in the NHL in particular in terms of making a save or giving up a goal. Kähkönen, he played in one preseason game. He gave up 2 goals on the first 2 shots he ever faced before stopping the other 18, I believe. But the Devils at home have been really good. I think the Devils have more talent. And the Devils in their net will be using Louis Domingue, and Domingue or Domingue, however you pronounce it. He's actually been solid so far this season. He was a backup goalie for the Lightning the last couple of years. I've always liked him. I thought he's very solid. He made his debut with the Devils in the last game against the Red Wings, and he ended up going 1-0 with a .77 goals against average with a save percentage of 96. So I simply just think Domingue has an advantage in net. I think Kähkönen will be overwhelmed by the Devils. Devils have more talent. You still have Hall, you still have Hughes, you still have Simmons on the roster. Still Palmieri. I just think the Devils are a better overall team. Wild have been terrible on the road. Devils have been good at home. I think generally if the Devils had an issue of choking games away, but I think the Wild should come out flat as they normally do. So I think they should give up the goal, the first goal of this game, and I think the Devils will come away with the victory. So based on that, if you end up getting the Devils to score first and the Devils to win the game, whether it's in a shootout or a regulation, anything, that is available at plus 135 on DraftKings. And I think that value is a bit too high, as that number should be somewhere in the 115 to 120 range. So just a recap of the 3 plays. We'll be on Arizona State minus 10.5, which is available at minus 110 on FanDuel as they take on Princeton on the road. The second game will be on Wright State minus 7, which is available at minus 110 against LaSalle. That will be on a neutral court in Florida. And the last game will be on the New Jersey Devils at home in hockey to score first and to win the game at plus 135 on DraftKings. Other than that, though, I'll give out some quick thoughts on some of the other games because I know some of you want my thoughts on college football. So for the 2 games today, you have Ohio versus Akron, and you have Western Michigan versus Northern Illinois. Ohio and Akron, I would lean to Ohio at minus 28. I know the spread's really high. Akron's winless this entire season. They're probably the worst team in the entire FBS. Yes, they're looking for the first win, so it could potentially be an emotional performance. And they almost beat Miami, Ohio last week, but they're just bad. I mean, there's no way to describe it. You can't really go 0-11 if you're actually mediocre. This team stinks, and Ohio just scored 66 points in their last game against Bowling Green last week. And Ohio actually has a lot to play for as they currently have a bowl game at risk. As if they win this game, they will officially reach 6 wins and they will qualify for a bowl game. So Ohio will treat this as a must-win. Look for Rourke to have a big performance under center as he will look to lead his team to another bowl game. Akron, they might come out looking decently for the first quarter, but this team just lacks talent. There's no real way to coach around that. Ohio is very efficient on the ground. I think they'll pound the rock. I don't think it really matters what goes on. I think Rourke will be able to complete some passes or even take some quarterback runs for touchdowns. I just think Ohio should score 40-something points in this game, and I'm not even sure if Akron's going to even score 10. So based on that, I'll lean to Ohio. I think that Ohio will not take their foot off the gas, and I think Ohio will do whatever they can to clinch a bowl game spot. So lean to Ohio in that one. And for Western Michigan and Northern Illinois, this game also matters for Western Michigan. Doesn't matter at all for Northern Illinois. Western Michigan, even though they've already clinched a bowl game, they are currently tied for the division title with Central Michigan. However, Western Michigan does have the head-to-head tiebreaker as they were able to beat Central Michigan earlier this year, which means that if Western Michigan wins this game, they will officially be in the MAC title game once again, and that's why this line has been bet up from -7 to -9, or even -9.5 in some spots. So I understand why money's coming on Western Michigan. Northern Illinois, they made the MAC title game last year. They won the MAC title game last year. This year, they've completely fallen apart. They got smacked last week. This team hasn't really had much optimism all season long, and, well, for the right reason, because this team isn't very good. The transfer move for Ross Bowers, the quarterback from California, definitely has backfired, as he has been pretty underwhelming so far this season with the Huskies. But for this game, I'll lean to Western Michigan. This game matters a lot more to them than it does to Northern Illinois. You could argue about senior night and trying to get the seniors a win, but decent amount of seniors from last year's successful team already left the year prior, so I don't really think much has changed from that. And Western Michigan, they need to win this game in order to actually make it to a conference title. So I think Western Michigan should take care of business. I expect Bellamy to have a big game on the ground for Western Michigan. I think he should go for 130-plus, 140-plus, as Western Michigan knows that they have to get the ball to him pretty much in every play, as he is their best playmaker by a wide margin, and he will look to carry them to a victory. That's why there's been money on the under. They expect Western Michigan's defense to play well. The weather won't be great, and they think that Western Michigan will pound the rock and eat up a decent amount of clock. So I will take Western Michigan. I think they should win by double digits. Lean to Western Michigan on that one. Now for the NBA, 2 games. You have the Clippers versus the Mavericks, and you have the Wizards versus the Nuggets. For this game, I'll lean to Dallas, actually. It's currently at +2. Money's come in on Dallas here. Clippers open up at -2.5. They're currently down to -2. I don't think anyone can stop Doncic right now. He looks like the MVP. He's had one of the best weeks in the NBA I could possibly remember in recent memory. I'm sure you've had a couple of exceptions there. Westbrook in his triple-double streak had some massive numbers. Harden as well. Kobe, that 1 year where he put up 50-something points in like 3 straight games. There's a lot of different times where players have gone on runs. Doncic, if you look at his recent numbers in like the last week or so, they're out of this world. I mean, I can't really think of many players who can put up those numbers. Handful of guys. Doncic will be the face of the NBA in a couple of years, if not right now, honestly. He's already that good. Clippers have looked great this season. It's tough to pick against the Clippers, but this line does look a bit concerning to me, and I question why Dallas has been getting money if everyone pretty much realized that the Clippers, with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, have looked like, as good of a team as advertised, and they're still probably, in my opinion, the favorite to win the actual championship. But for this game in itself, as far as I know, Kawhi and George will both be playing. There's no real injuries to report. I'll lean to Dallas just based on the line itself, so I'll lean to the Mavericks. And the second game between Denver and Washington, remember, these are all leans. I'll lean to Denver, I guess. You don't really know what to think of this game besides the fact that Washington's just bad at basketball. They're not a good team. Hachimura's looked okay as a rookie. I mean, he could improve. He could look worse. Bryant's okay at center. Isaiah Thomas, your starting point guard, is probably one of the worst options defensively in the entire league. I think Denver will do whatever they want. I think Jokic should be able to have a big game. Murray should be able to have some opportunities being guarded by Isaiah Thomas. And I think that as long as Denver's able to stop Bradley Beal, I think Denver should be able to coast to a victory here. So lean to the Nuggets. But other than that, though, that's going to over this installment of the Deep 3 here on Tuesday, November 26th. And good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.